Hi, I'm Mark. Welcome back to Foothill Paint Fabrication. Well, we've got most of the blocking done on Ruby's body, and it's just about time for some more epoxy. We do have a little bit to do here and there, and then of course we need to prep the whole thing to make sure it's clean, everything's sanded that needs to be sanded. Then we've got a little masking to do before we can actually spray. Unfortunately, we've got a storm coming in. It's going to be here in about 3 or 4 hours, and it's going to start raining. So I'm going to try to get everything done I can today, and then come out tomorrow and we'll get it sprayed. But before we do that, let's go ahead and do a budget update. I've been spending some money. There's wisps of smoke coming out of my credit card, so I think I've spent a little bit more than I'd like, but you got to do what you got to do. So let's check that out and get to work. Okay guys, this is our last update. It was $13,873.49. So let's go ahead and check out where we are now. So I added a little bit to the body segment here. So you can see here in green, I bought some headlight bezels. That was $178.99. Door latches and strikers, $227.85. Bezels, screws, bumper, clips, basically assorted hardware, $50.73. And then the chassis parts in green, you can see that I bought a sway bar for the front. That was $396.26. Rectangular tubing for the chassis when we finally get to that part, $138.95. Brake lines, clamps, line protector, got that from Amazon, $214.68. Welding supply, need to get some gas and more wire. That was $76.01. And then paint supplies, we didn't add anything this time. And then engine parts, we added quite a bit. So Butler Performance, I picked up the connecting rods. Those were $401.17. Have the flywheel surface, that was 70 bucks. The crankshaft balance, that was 100. Pistons and rings from Keith Black, that was 500. Bearings, $312. Timing set, 110. Head gaskets, $176.99. The resurface the block was 110 bucks. And the labor for the machinist was $659. So we didn't add anything on interior parts right here. So let's scroll back to the top here and see what our grand total is. And we are at $17,596.12. So we added $3,722.53. So we're still under 20 grand, but I still have to buy cylinder heads, fuel injection, fuel tank, transmission, you know, a lot of other stuff. So it's going to shoot up quite a bit when we start buying those big ticket items. But yeah, still under 20 grand, so I guess that's not so bad. All right, let's get to work on that car. No sooner did I say I had 3 or 4 hours before it was going to start raining, and it already did. So, but before it did, I realized I didn't get you guys a really close-up view of the inside of those fenders when I shot them a couple weeks ago. So here you go. All right, guys, here's the inside of those fenders. I didn't get a chance to show you very closely how it came out after we sprayed them. It's looking pretty good on both of them. Really happy the way it's all turning out. We still have a little bit of sanding in there to smooth it out, but it looks so much better than it did. So yeah, those fenders are coming out really nice. I'm really happy the way they're looking. So down inside where the windshield goes, you guys can see, I think, inside there, I sanded all the way through to bare metal, except all the pits retained all the epoxy. So we're going to get another couple of coats in here and do that again until all these pits are filled in real nice. So that means we need to sand that dash. The firewall, we're not going to touch. I've already done some preliminary sanding. We've done some work around on the top here. Had a little hoop-de-doo in the middle I worked on quite a bit. And then along this drip edge right here, I've done some filling and some blocking. When you're at a car show, you look for those small details, and right along that drip edge is really hard to work. So the sail panel's looking pretty good. The quarter panel's looking good. We're going to resand everything because it's been sitting out. Now, you guys know I put the car out in the sun a couple of times, and you know, it got bird poop on it, and all kinds of stuff from the tree and everything. So I went through with just a simple spray. It's half water and half isopropanol alcohol, and I just sprayed it and wiped all those areas off. It wasn't stained or anything, so we just got that cleaned up. The alcohol makes that water evaporate super quick, so you don't leave anything behind. But the back here is looking really good. I think I need to get a scuff pad down inside that weather strip channel right there, and we're looking pretty good there. And then the filler panel's looking good too. I think we're pretty much done around the window. And this quarter panel was really ready to go, but we're going to resand everything. Now, I did leave a few things. I thought I did them, but you know how it is. You leave the crappiest hard work for last. And down inside here. Now this is where those panels meet, and on both sides, the side I did and the factory side, it kind of goes in and out right there. So I filled down inside there some weeks ago, so now it's hard as a rock, so it's time to get sanded on that. So let's figure out how we're going to sand that, and then we can get this whole thing scuffed up and cleaned up and ready for spraying. All right, I came up with a stir stick. I stuck some 80 grit on there. I didn't want to go too coarse because I'd rather work it a little bit longer than put 40 grit sand scratches in there and then try to fill those or do something later. So it's better sometimes to go a little finer and just work it a little bit longer. This is a very small strip, so it shouldn't take much effort. So all we're going to do is get it down inside there and try to hold it as flat as possible without bending it. And just sand it. Looks like it's coming together pretty quick. Yeah, so that's actually looking pretty good. It needs to lay over just a little bit, but this lip kind of changes as it goes around. Now we still have drip check to put in there, the sealer, but it's not obviously going to go all the way up to here. We just need it in the bottom. So I'm going to keep working this. We'll keep sanding away here and try to get this thing smoothed out. Hopefully I got enough filler in there. If not, we'll go ahead and touch it up. I have the same thing to do on the other side, so I'll bring it back when it's all done. All right, we got both sides knocked out, and they came out pretty nice. Now we do need to get some primer on here because we really can't tell if we've got that little detail reproduced properly. So we'll get the primer on there and then it'll show us what's going on, too low, too high, maybe a little more contouring, and then it'll be spot on. But I'm really happy with that. I just realized I need to get some a scuff pad down inside here as well before we start primering. Now I really just have a bunch of small sanding to do before we're ready to start masking, but I'm not going to bore you with any of that. So I'm just going to get after it, and I'll bring you back when we're ready to start getting this thing masked off and talk about the areas we need to protect. All right, guys, I'm finally done sanding and prepping. Now I blew the car off several times, found areas that need more work. Did those, blew it off again, found more areas, and you need to be patient. So you just can't get in a rush and say, oh, I really want to spray, and then, skip something. So I even did some filling here in the door jamb. You guys remember we replaced that quarter panel? Well, that's the weld seam right there. So, and I did some filling up there just to beautify that. I realized we still have a lot of blocking and work to do in that area, but yeah, I just want to get a head start on it. So I went through and paid special attention to any bare steel that's showing to make sure, because the car's been sitting a little while, make sure there was absolutely no rust. So everything's been sanded, scuffed, and sanded and gone over carefully. So I think we're just about ready. Now it's getting late. It's 5 o'clock and I need to go start some dinner, but I may come out and do some masking. So basically, since I'm not spraying the whole car, I'm not going to paint the rocker panels down low, so I'll mask those because I don't want to get any overspray on them. You don't want dry spray or overspray on something that's not been prepped properly. It could come back to haunt you later. It may not adhere properly. You may not sand all that back off later. There's a lot of different things. Like the drip edge right here. I don't want a bunch of epoxy built up on there, so I'm going to mask that and just spray down inside and get all that. We have to latch that molding over the top of it, so if I build a bunch on there, it's going to be that much harder to get on there, and basically it doesn't need it. It's probably going to get some later, so I just don't want to get gobs of coats on that. Now the top's ready to go, but when I spray this right here, I'll probably just put some 2-inch masking tape right here, just have it hang down and protect that. You can see the dash. I've sanded the dash back so I can lay down, a nice little pattern right there. I will mask this with some paper to make sure no overspray or dry spray gets down inside there. It's just a matter of keeping all this. You can see how shiny and clean it is. It's not ready for more, and it really doesn't need more. So I'm going to protect it and keep that out of there. So we're looking really good. Hopefully tomorrow, since the rain stopped, it'll be a nice, clear, dry day, and we can get this painted. So I will probably get started on some masking tonight and finish it up in the morning, and I'll see you then. All right, guys, it's not the next morning, it's the next afternoon. The weatherman lied to me, but it's not raining, Sun has been playing peekaboo all day and the temperatures finally come up a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and get this thing sprayed. So I got it masked off, and a lot of this is just to keep spray from going somewhere I don't want it. You know, the trunk's fairly clean, so I want to make sure it kind of stays out of there. And, you know, just some of these other areas we already talked about. So we are ready to go. I've blown it off, tacked it off, and blown it off again. Always blow off after you tack because little strings and stuff will break loose. You can even tack and blow off at the same time. That usually works pretty good. So we're just about ready to spray. I got to mix up some epoxy and get the gun out, and then we'll be ready to go. All right, I mixed up 24 ounces. I got about 15 in the gun. We'll see how far it goes here. I'm going to start in the front and work towards the exhaust fan. All right, guys, that took about 30 ounces. So I had to mix another batch and poured it in there. Now we're going to use the next batch to go ahead and double coat all the stuff we need to. So as soon as this flashes off, but if we look down the quarter panel here, I don't know if you guys can make it out, but you can see where the epoxy, the primer is more shiny than other spots. The duller spots are where the body filler is. It really sucked it in right there. So I don't, maybe if I can get an angle right here, so you can see that spot right there and see all the sand scratches. I don't know if you guys can make out the sand scratches. So I'm going to identify all the areas that need more, and I'm going to make sure it gets it. So that way we're not piling on primer, urethane, epoxy, whatever you're spraying, you're not piling it on where you don't need it. So the top is going to get more in the center. We're going to get some more on these edges where we had all that work done. And then the rest is just going to get that one good coat, and then we're going to double coat all the spots that really need it. So let's let this flash off, and then we'll get after it again. All right, guys, we're waiting for this to flash off. I realized I probably haven't covered something I really need to. So you guys, I just talked about going back and double coating the areas I know that need it, right? And some of you may be thinking, why don't you just go ahead and prime those first and then just put a whole coat over everything? And the problem with that is dry spray. So when you're spraying, there's a little halo around your fan pattern that's not wet. It's not as wet. It's more just, you know, getting carried away. And so it's partially drying in midair before it hits the panel. And then let's say I did that. I sprayed right here and then I covered the whole car. Well, part of that is going to be painting over dry spray, and you're not going to get your maximum adhesion. Now, if you're just doing a spot job like right here, what you want to do is you want to spray your first coat larger, and then let that flash, and then come in a little tighter, and then put your second coat. You're going to sand the whole area anyway, so you're kind of stepping it in as you go. So best practice is get a coat on the whole panel or whole car or whatever you're doing, and then go back and pick out, you know, the spots you can see. And I can see them. I can see the sand scratches. I can see the body filler because it absorbs into that faster than it does what's underneath. So keep that in mind next time you're priming. All right, guys, it looks like we're just about flashed off and ready to go, and I can tell by touching a masked area where I can run my finger on it. It feels like a little bit of a drag, but it's not sticking. If your hand is sticking or you stick your finger on it, pull it away, and material comes with it, you know you have to wait a little bit longer for that solvent to go ahead and leave, and it'll stiffen that up. If you go too early, of course, the solvent from what you're spraying will combine with the solvent that hasn't left yet, and you'll get a sag. So let me grab the gun. I'm going to rush through this, trying to pick out all the spots I know I need, and then we'll see if I have any material left, and I may triple coat this in here to try to get some of these pits out of this thing. All right, guys, all done spraying. I actually put an extra coat on both sail panels. They have a lot of heavy sand scratches, and we had a lot of work going on there. So the front, where the windshield goes, they got 3 coats as well. But I think we're looking pretty good. Let's check it out and see how our quarter panels look here. Well, you guys can see that, but they're looking pretty good. Got a few ripples here and there. A couple of spots we had to tap down that had metal exposed, so I want to get epoxy on it before we do any filling, but I think they're looking really good. Sail panels, they're going to need some more sanding because, like I said, they have some pretty good sand scratches in them. I can still see them. I don't know if you guys can make them out, but there's some in there that I had to stop because if I try to sand out the sand scratches, then I'm actually making it, you know, lumpy or uneven. So I had to stop and you let the primer get in there. But yeah, this quarter panel's looking really good too. See if I can get the sunlight in there. The sun decided to pop out for a little while. I think a little wave right there. But really, I think they're looking pretty good. Yeah, I'm liking it. So yeah, all I gotta do is clean the gun and we'll wrap this one up. Yeah, you can see a spot right here I'm not thrilled with. It'll show up when we do the dry guide coat. It's going to be a little bit low right there, I can tell already. And that's really the next step for the body, the fenders, and the deck lid is get some dry guide coat on this stuff. I really want to get that chassis done. Been jumping back and forth between the chassis and the body to kind of keep everything going. I'm spread pretty thin right now. I've got 2 or 3 other things going on that have to get done on time. So I've been trying to, you know, get all this done at once. It's really starting to get to me. But I'm happy to get this done. We can let it set, dry, shrink, and do all it wants to do while we get back on that chassis. But yeah, one step closer. Thanks for joining me here at Foothill Paint Fabrication. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Mash that bell and drop me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. We'll see you on the next one.